Welcome to the Possibility Paradigm podcast, where we have conversations that are at the intersection of possibility, consciousness, actual experience, and energetic intelligence. The Possibility Paradigm are actually more than conversations. They're experiences that can change your tomorrows. Let's jump into today's episode. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Possibility Paradigm podcast. You know that saying, hold on to your hat? Well, I'm going to change that and say, let the hat go, because as I was preparing to record this session, I blew both the light bulbs in the lamps that I used to create the best lighting for the YouTube version of these podcasts. So let your hat go. And in fact, the title of today is Letting Go of the Grip and Returning to Source Intelligence. So the invitation right now is to let go of your mind and step into the field and the feel of this conversation. Because today I'm going to explore something very simple yet incredibly transformative. And the ability to shift and clear the layers that keep us disconnected from realizing that you are your own inner source. You are the beginning, the end, and the middle. You always have been, you always will be. And so the invitation is to let the mind take its real role, which is as a general manager, not as the chief executive officer of your life and your being and the way that you be and live in the world. And because this is not about trying harder, it's not about controlling more, it's not about sorting it all out. All of those things, well, particularly sorting it out, will happen in a completely different way if you choose to absorb some of what I'm sharing today. Because when you recall that you are infinite, you've always been infinite, you've never not been infinite, and that as that infinite being, there's an immense well of source energy already present. You don't have to do anything to be it. You already are it. Now, some people refer to this as the heart energy. For me, it's actually your inner essence. And I do a lot of work with the heart, because as we know, the heart sends more messages to the brain every day than the brain sends to the heart. Our biology is incredible and always assisting us to actually see things differently. Perhaps that's another podcast. Anyway, so just take a breath and notice where and how you use your mind and the noise of the mind. And at the same time, so it's not one or the other, at the same time, can you actually acknowledge that there's something vast, incredibly intelligent, and infinite emanating through your life? Whether you recognize it or whether you don't, the truth is that this cosmic intelligence is quietly emanating life through you all the time. And so in this paradigm shift today, the old paradigm that we've been living for quite a while, quite hundreds of years, is that life is controlled through the mind. That transformation stroke healing requires fixing the past. That a lot of people, particularly in the last 5 years, have made trauma their identity. That makes my heart cry. And the old paradigm says that power or empowerment comes from managing, micromanaging, and navigating circumstances and conditions. It also projects that the heart is emotional and unreliable, when in truth, it's actually a massive transmitter within the psyche and the circuitry of our own being. So our new paradigm is about our realities are actually showing us the energy which we are emanating all the time. The new paradigm says that trauma is an energetic arrangement, not an identity. It's the way the pieces have locked in, but it's not a sentence. It's not a life sentence. It's energy. It can move quickly and intelligently. The new paradigm is about creation occurs as the source intelligence within us moving through. Now, that source intelligence, you can be either unconscious and running the intelligence of the collective, or and the way things have been and the how bad things are and how shitty things are and how terrible they're going to be. So you can create through that frequency, through that energy, or you can give yourself listen to more of these podcasts, or heaven above, work with me personally or join one of my programs, where you will realize without any question of a doubt that you are source intelligence. You're an infinite field of possibilities. And truly, the only job you have is to explore what they are and to have an incredible amount of fun, not without challenge, in discovering what that is. So the new paradigm is also, it's a transmitter, that the heart is a transmitter and a receiver of possibilities. It's a much higher capacity to connect with the infinite essence than your brain is capable of. And a lot of the stress that I see is around people thinking their brain should be able to work it out. You're giving your brain a job it's not capable of doing, and that creates enormous stress in your being. When you allow the infinite intelligence to contribute to you, then your mind can finally start to function effectively because it's not given a task that's way too big for its capacities. We've all gone through that experience. You know what it's like. You literally SHIT yourself, right? When you go, oh, wow, this is way out of my capacities. Well, that's what people's brains and minds are doing most of the time, right? So the new paradigm comes through acknowledging and mastering the lost art of being a master of your reality. It's not about control. It's about claiming and commanding the flow of infinite essence and possibilities through you. So the old paradigm basically teaches us to manage life from the mind, and it's totally entrapped in collective programming based in limitation and disempowerment, because then you become completely controllable. The emerging paradigm invites us to create life as the infinite, as the possibilities to step out of the how and be the conduit of things that in some crazy way are actually possible, rather than giving your power away consistently. And this is the programming to the collective matrix where nothing's possible, and this is, like, who do you think you are, and the way you live is not going to change the the conflicts that we're all looking at currently on the global scene. So the inner conflict, the loop, and this is where most people are living unless you are consciously intending to be a paradigm shift within your own reality. Your inner essence, your soul, if your life is always about expansion, but conditioning says you got to tighten control. So, quite often I hear people talk about, feeling very disconnected, and they try this and then they try that, and they apply their mind to figure things out, but still, feel completely blocked. And in my teachings, we certainly engage the mind, but I encourage people not so much to journal, because unless you've done some other trainings around this, journaling is highly, most people are letting their mind write their words. And here, when you play with a few pivotal questions and are doing things at the same time, uh, like peeling carrots or chopping wood, and you've asked an expansive question, you will get the cosmic intelligence. Anyway, I go on. So today's episode is about saying it's not that the connection isn't there, right? It's just that we've layered so much sorting it out, holding, gripping, identifying that the natural emanation of our source gets filtered, or it gets locked away, and if lucky, it might get filtered through the programming. So if you think about it, if you keep, muddying water, right? If you keep gripping identities, traumas, and belief systems, and you keep stirring it in to the water, the clear water, which is your essence, eventually, if you keep stirring all that muck in there, it's hard to see anything, right? All you see is the muck. And the point is that really, you've just forgotten that you're the water, and the water hasn't gone anywhere. You've made yourself the muck and forgotten that you're the water. And so, what I would like to share with you and remind you of is that inside every single human being, there is an immense well of source energy. In fact, that's all any of us truly are. And we've just made it less than that by our programming and our conditioning. That this energy is always emanating, and your reality is showing you what you're emanating. And your world and the world is showing us the energetic sum of what we emit. So it's showing us fighting, and it's showing us a fight of who's right and who's wrong and who's good and who's bad. So when you start to accommodate that, when you've got a choice not to be reactive to life, you can choose to become conscious of what you're emanating in relationship to what is going on around you. Because the distortion that you unconsciously keep emanating is creating our reality. And the distortion is about holding the trauma, holding identities, making yourself things that you're not, holding ideas about yourself. That's just the way I am. Controlling life mechanisms, gripping the past and dragging it into the now, and then projecting it into the future. And all of this is what is mud, and then it's how you try and see your reality. So when you simply loosen the grip, the filters or the mud begins to fall away. And then because you're not holding it in place anymore. And so, because you are the water, right? So your filters change. And I personally don't talk about self-surrender, because the truth of it is we're actually freeing ourselves. We're not surrendering ourselves, we're actually freeing ourselves into infinite expansion. You can get out of your own way so that source intelligence can show up, because you know yourself in source intelligence and you're excited about seeing what that is. So again, I'm going to come back to, people say that they feel disconnected from themselves. We get very busy and we're doing this and we're doing that. But if you go a little bit deeper than that, it's actually, they're not disconnected. It is this energy about holding on, about gripping, holding on to the story, holding on to the projections, holding on to the judgments, because the truth is that judgments are the things that hold all realities in place. Holding on to the trauma, holding on to the identity that formed the experience. And you know what? All of that holding, it takes an enormous amount of energy. That's why many of us are exhausted. We're holding on to the filters rather than freeing our infinite essence. And just imagine the amount of life force that can be freed up when you release the grip. You don't have to work at it, you just release the grip. And then something extraordinary can happen. You know, that extraordinary things requires an allowance of not knowing. So I've recently concluded an 8-week immersion around your sovereignty. And, you know, there was lots of, or some of these elements woven into being a sovereign being. And the changes and shifts that the people in there have experienced, it's like, poof, right? Who knew? Who knew? And because when you get out of your own way, when you allow things to be different without being a control freak around not having to know what it is before you take action, that pattern of constantly doubting and distorting yourself, it actually dissolves. And what emerges is this truer harmonic of you, the part that you've been dismissing because you don't know how. And so the possibility paradigm here is for you to choose to change that. And if you ask yourself how, you know you're in the matrix, you know you're in your programming. Because the moment you step out of the how and you go, I'm just going to choose it, I've got no idea how this is going to actually move, but I'm choosing difference. Every choice and every decision you make is different. It can come from, you know, like helping your body and your being do this. It can come from simple ways. Drive a different way to work. Walk a different way with your dog. Do something different every day, because then you're saying to yourself, I am being different. I'm doing it right now. So the key point behind today is that when you're changing a paradigm, most times, well, humanity generally has forgotten that we are the emanators of reality. And reality is showing us what you're emanating, living from the inside out. So there's a belief that the external world determines our experience, what is possible, but it's actually living backwards because we are constantly, always participating in the orchestration of the entire theatre. And you have the capacity to choose. It's not my kind of my perfect phrasing here, but to choose the character that you play, because you're way more than a character. You choose how to show up, right? So a significant portion of humanity right now is cycling through the old patterns of disempowerment. That's why it looks so very messy. So because what's emerging is collective empowerment. And in order to have that empowerment, you've got to loosen the grip and welcome and bring alive your infinite essence. And so you, the truth of you is that you're an intelligent transmitter and receiver of possibilities. Always have been, always will be. And again, you might like to play with your heart energy. What resonates in your heart? What makes your heart sing? Because that harmonic is the true essence of you. And when you start to play life in that tune, life will change in front of your very eyes. And, you know, if we live only by our preferences, we create a very small life. Because beyond your preferences, there are possibilities, infinite possibilities. And that's where true fulfillment and peace actually are enduring. So your life is not created by what has happened to you. It is shaped by your judgment and your projections and your evaluations around that, and then you continuing to hold that energy. That's what locks you in place. That's what keeps you in the loop. It's not created by what happened to you. It's created by you holding on to it as an identity, as a problem, as something to be rescued from. And when you release that grip, your infinite essence begins to emanate very, very clearly, because that's the truth of who you are. And then creation becomes conscious, not programmed. Your world becomes a conscious expression of you. Because none of us are actually limited. Because remembering, always, you are the possibility. So thank you for being here. And so I'm beginning to actually add an activator of some of these episodes. I have millions of tools that help people shift into a new paradigm. And there is I have a series called the Infinite Essence Activation. And if you would like access to that Infinite Essence Activation, very simple, you can do it in probably 2 or 3 minutes. And it involves the body and your being, quite simple, all illustrated, easy instructions. And if you play with that for a couple of days, I'd be very interested to hear what shifts for you, because energy first, right? And this is what this particular activator, catalyst activator, does. So you can access that through the link in the show notes. And I look forward to seeing you next episode. I'll see you next episode, knowing that you are the possibility. Bye for now. If this conversation sparks something within you, subscribe to the Possibility Paradigm podcast and share this episode with someone who you know is ready to explore life beyond old frameworks. I mentioned in here a special gift of one of my catalysts that I share with people, and you can access that through clicking the link below, and it will take you immediately to that simple, highly effective process to move the energy within you so that you and your mind and your brain can move in the direction that you're choosing to go in. Remember, you're not searching for possibility, you're remembering that you are the possibility.